What's up guys, Freeman here, welcome back to another video. So, I noticed that I'm a bit low energy today. So the last few days have been quite an emotional roller coaster and a really great milestone. So, long story short, I finally managed to go no contact and totally break off, take all my stuff and just block them from my phone, from WhatsApp, from messages, from everything. And I tell you that in its own, I didn't realize how difficult that would be. So, a few days ago, I thought to myself, you know what? I'll tell them where I live. I'll take them there. Just so that they can be happy and so that they can feel better about themselves, because apparently, you know, they need to know where I am at all times and some crap. And it didn't go very well. I immediately tried to set the no contact rules. They said I'm going to be going out for a while, and then they embarked on their usual guilt and shaming tactics that they are very, very trained at doing. And something just snapped inside of me. It was like, I'm done. I'm done. I took all my stuff out of the car, gave them back the keys, just kept walking. And they tried to chase me down as well. They actually followed me in the car because I think they realized that they're about to lose their only son. And, I could basically disappear and I could never come back anymore. And I think that was a big milestone for them because it's like, wow, we have no more power. So I think they realized that and they tried to negotiate, but I do not negotiate with terrorists. I do not negotiate with emotional terrorists. I don't. So, took all my shit, walked like 45 minutes laden down with stuff. I didn't care. And the first thing that happened, I felt great, and then I got overcome with guilt. I felt so guilty for leaving and so bad for doing so that I was pretty much depressed for like at least like an hour or two. And this sounds weird, but when you are in an abusive relationship of any kind, and when guilt and shame are implemented, if you're on the receiving end of that abuse, it can be very hard to actually cut it off, because what will happen is they will then try and use those tactics to get you back. And if it's already caused a problem in your life, which it has for me, then I started to have thoughts in my head like, oh no, they just want the best for me and all this other nonsense, and maybe I should tell them where I live. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. Blah 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 blah. It's called Stockholm syndrome, when you fall in love with your abusers, and it's extremely messed up. And it basically comes from, like I said before, years of being told that either you can't make it without me, or we've given you everything, which is usually a scapegoat for we're giving you everything, so ignore all the other bad stuff that we've done. And I luckily I found a video to be able to help me and basically talking me through the whole process, because imagine if you have a lion that's got a spear in its back, and you're trying to help that lion, but whenever you come close to it, it lashes out at you, and it doesn't realize that there's a spear in its back, and the only way for it to express its pain is to take it out on you. That's what it's like to live with narcissistic people. And if you're an empath, if you're someone who likes to give to others, if you're someone who is overly concerned with what other people think of you, that's usually when the empathic abilities go to the negative spectrum. What will happen is that you'll basically start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt your choices. You'll start to think to yourself, actually, maybe I'm the one in the wrong. And I just sat and I meditated and I thought back to the last 10 years of just fucking misery. And I thought, you know what, screw you. Screw you. Like, this whole Jekyll and Hyde being nice and then stabbing me in the back thing, it's like after I left, although everyone's calling me week after week, day after day sometimes, it's just like, oh hey, do you want to cover over this food, help us move the pots, oh do you want to come over and help iron your clothes, because, and my friend actually gave me a piece of advice as well about this, is that when someone is messed up emotionally, sometimes their authentic emotions are expressed negatively. So my mum, in general, was really sad about leaving, because obviously when you've actually left on your own accord, it's a very sad occasion. But the way she took that out was through verbal, emotional abuse, usually under the influence of alcohol. And so the moment she actually realized that I was gone, it was like, oh crap. And so she's trying all these different manipulative techniques to try and get me back. And I can't tell you the feeling of revulsion that you get when you are being talked nice to someone who has harmed you so much. And it's like if I punched you in the face and then the next day I come around to you and I say, hey, what's wrong? You know what I mean? I've already given this analogy, and I can't, for the sake of forming proper and authentic relationships, you have to get those people out of your life. And I tell you, it's been difficult because, like I said, like I love them, and I let them do all this because I didn't have the mental and emotional fortitude to be able to resist. And like when she calls up and she's like, oh hey, how's everything, like everything is nice, part of me wants to reach back out again, but I realized that like it's poison, and in these sort of situations you have to break them off. It doesn't matter what happens. And this can be difficult because other people are in different situations. Like maybe you have a narcissistic grandmother and you're the only one taking care of her. Maybe you have a narcissistic girlfriend or boyfriend or wife or husband who's really sick, and they're just constantly bringing you down. It can be very difficult to basically just sort of cut them out, because what basically happens is you start to think to yourself, oh, what are they going to do? What are they? How are they going to survive? And the very fact that you are in a narcissistic relationship to begin with shows that one does not understand this drip feed, arsenic coated sugar that you've been spoon fed over the years. So to the point where your self-esteem is so warped that you can't see that the person pointing a gun at your head actually really does mean to shoot, and instead you try and hug him, then you suffer the consequences. And I'm done. It's been very, very liberating. It's been a very interesting epoch of my life, but I'm fucking done. I'm done. Especially when I think about all of the other videos that I made about self-sabotage. I've been thinking about that a lot more, is that you look at all these people playing video games and it's like there's no lack of willpower there. It's just a lot of people are trapped in this fight or flight mindset. And so they try all these different techniques and all these different ways of, get motivation now and how to get rid of self-sabotage. But they don't realize is that they're already good at not self-sabotaging themselves. They just have to realize why it is that they are in this pattern, why it is that they don't want to do the things that they want to do, and instead they just want to numb out to Netflix or video games or something like that. And to people like that, it's like, when you actually remove those things from your life, I'm actually realizing that it's not a simple case of let's just get it out your system. It's the same thing with physical healing as well. If you've been dealing with a physical illness for a long period of time, it's a mental transformation that you have to go through to live without it sometimes. Not all the time. But you become reliant on the very things that actually make you sick. And that's where I found myself, is that I became extremely reliant on the people who actually made me sick. And so when I left, it was like, wow, I'm on my own again. Where does my motivation come from? That was a big question for me, because a lot of my motivation to do all this healing was because I just wanted to get out. And when you've been dwelling on that for such a long period of time, it becomes a part of your identity. So I'm literally having to gin. I'll have that later. I am literally having to just look at my motivations for why I do things, and just constantly reiterate in different forms the phrase that I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing this for myself, and I deserve the benefits that come out of it. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be healthy, and there is no one that can ever tell me or try and convince me or try and manipulate me to go against that. And if they do, I will cut them out of my life, because I can. That mindset is something that I have not been able to fully exemplify, because I've just been caught in this negative thought loop of trying to heal physically and putting my life on hold until something amazing happens in the future. Once I heal myself physically, once I heal all of these other things, then everything will be fine. And it's got nothing to do with that. It's all about the journey. It's all about minimizing risk and maximizing reward. Well, when I say, let me rephrase that. What I really mean is it's about minimizing negativity and maximizing positivity, doing things that actually make you happy. Because I guarantee that if there's anyone watching that is actually is actually in the swing of this sort of negative self-torture, they're most likely not doing things that they know make them feel good. And not some things, not all. Like, for example, I'm about to sign up for a gym membership. I've been trying to do that for such a long period of time. The only thing is that a lot of the things that I wanted to do well were being negatively influenced. Like, for example, my YouTube, every day it was like, when are you going to be successful? When are you going to be successful? When's it going to make money? Oh, have you gone to the gym? Have you gone to the gym? Why don't you go to the gym? It's like there's a reason why you don't want to do the things that are good for you. And it may be people, it may be circumstances, or it may be the way that you're just talking to yourself about it. And it's not about minimizing self-sabotage. It's about maximizing focus. Focus. When you actually focus on what you want, it's not a question of like, I'm just going to sabotage myself or not. And then also when you focus on the things that you don't want and you actually bring awareness to it, it's like, why am I doing these things? Oh, that's why I'm doing these things. Let me correct that. So instead of trying to quash the self-sabotage, ask, why is it that I'm so fascinated on this thing to begin with? Why is it that that I put so much energy into it? What is the building blocks behind it? And can I change that into something else? It's like day by day now for me, like as the old shit just falls away, it's like I'm looking at all the negative stuff that I'm doing, and it's like more and more like, why am I doing this? And it's not a question of doing the right mantra or taking the right supplements. It's just a question of, I don't need to run anymore. I don't need to be in this fight or flight mindset anymore. I can literally just do it with no repercussions. And like I said, when I first moved in ages ago, I was super conscious about everything I did. I was wondering, can I do this? Can I do this? Is that okay? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, and then again and again, it was a simple question of, yeah, no one cares. Yeah, no one cares. Yeah, no one cares. But that mindset that I used to have, I'm just finally regaining it after actually all these years. And it's like, I realize that I don't have to make YouTube videos. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything. And most importantly, there's no shame or guilt associated with that. Okay, there may be a bit residual ones, a bit of residual. But it's like, I don't have to do anything. And coming from a very high achieving family, I tell you, that's actually very difficult to really become comfortable with. Because I'm always asked, you should have picked a course, you should have done this, you should have done that. And it's like, I don't want fucking anyone telling me what to do in my life. Like, I'm so fucking sick and tired of it, which is kind of ironic because I do give advice to people about that as well. But it's like, I never knew just how tiny the ego voice in my head, how weak it had become, to the point where I was actually thinking in terms of like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Oh, instead of thinking to myself, yeah, I should probably go down the road and pick up some butter or something. It's, you really need to get some butter. I would think that because the ego has become so other focused that it just becomes so used to being lectured and told what to do that it's like, where is the I in all this? Where's the me? Where do I fit in? And it's very difficult when you are in abusive relationships to know where you begin and someone else ends. Similar to my boundaries episode. Where do you begin? Where do you end? What do you really have control over? What are you actually willfully doing, and what are you doing because other people want you to do? And that sort of lesson you can only really learn in isolation. This is why I think MGTOW is actually quite useful for some things. Is that you can, if you actually go MGTOW, like, I consider MGTOW to be not living at your parents' house. I'm sorry. It's so difficult to go MGTOW when you're living in your parents' house. Like, MGTOW means actually going your own way, you know. And yes, it can be a mindset, this, that, or the other, but like, as long as you have someone else actually lording it over you, you don't ever get that sort of sense of, I'm independent, if I sink or swim, it's totally up to me. That is way more MGTOW than, you know, you're 17, you got dumped, and now all of a sudden you're MGTOW and you just swan off women, but you're still don't have a job, you're living off your parents, and it's like, especially if you're a dude, man, especially if you're a dude, like, that feeling of independence and cutting out the shit from your life, you won't become a man without it, you know. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today. I'm feeling quite mellow now, as you can probably tell. For now, and peace.